I mean, gangs, you had to know what area you grew up in. I grew up H.R. Gangsta Crip. You had to know who was who, what was what, and I mean, I'm thankful for that experience. I didn't realize how desensitized I was until I saw Boys in the Hood. And that's why I always pay homage to, John Singleton, may he rest in peace, because what he put on screen was so pure and so authentic that I forgot I had been desensitized to
Mm.
helicopters. I was desensitized to, just all of those elements. And that was it. That was my high school. Those were my
Wow.
high school years. Yeah, it was real. I
I,
mean, but there was still fun and joy and all of that too, just like in Boys in the Hood. You know what I mean? There was, girls, we had fun. I think that's how I'm able to navigate, from going to the hood to the White House. I could do that, and still feel comfortable in both worlds. But it was a very, very interesting time, and it was a dark time, but there was still light in it.
mm-hmm.
Because when you're in something, you don't know how deep it is because you're in it,
Right.
and even going to Howard, when I left, it was a culture shock, because everybody was a doctor's daughter or a doctor's son. And it was like, well, my daddy works at the post office and he was and a custodian, and my mom was a nurse, and it was just normalcy. So I had a hard time adjusting my first semester.
This is what I want to ask you because you are an attractive woman. Going to college. You're welcome. Going to college though. I know I went to Clark Atlanta University and another HBCU, and I saw it seemed like some women were having difficulties when they start seeing other beautiful women. Like they were used to being the most beautiful person in their neighborhood.
The one,
the
right,
one, the one.
right.
And then they get to college and like, oh, there's
Everybody,
every.
the one.
So as a woman, how was that? Because I've never actually, I don't think, asked a woman how did you deal with that, or did you not deal with that, being around all these other attractive, beautiful women in college when you grew up being the one?
Well, what's interesting, I didn't think I grew up being the one, but I was always, I was a cheerleader and, doing all that kind of stuff in high school. But when I got to Howard, I think it wasn't about not being the one. It was almost kind of like a classism kind of thing.
Mm.
Whereas so many of them that were the ones and they were beautiful, they knew each other from the Jack and Jill conferences and the medical conventions and, the prearranged and, all of that. Like my roommate, she knew so many people, that, oh, well, we grew up at the conventions and this, that, and the other. So it was a whole other world of Black networking that I knew nothing about. I'm a Trey Gangster Crip. I was, watched it out, coming through like this, and it was like I had braids that were asymmetrical. I was her walking on campus wearing white pumps and getting clowned by the Omegas. California's here, and I was like, yeah, didn't know I was getting clowned, but it was crazy. So I think that more than anything was the one thing that just really made me feel very, insecure and question a lot. But I'm so thankful for the drama department because they had us so wrapped up in rehearsals and production. And if you weren't in it, you were doing the practicums and you had to do the stage management. So, I mean, from like 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. I never even went to a homecoming game. How do you go to a HBCU and
What?
miss out on all? Yeah, we were always in rehearsal.
Damn.
Yes, it was
You
crazy.
missed
It was
Howard's
crazy.
homecoming?
I know. And I probably could have, done it, but it was like, my priorities were so, I was really, really focused. And it was a small department. I mean, it was like 30 of us came in as acting concentrations and 3 of us graduated.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was intense. But yeah, I hope I answered that question. Yeah, because everybody is the one and bringing it between brains, beauty, body, everything. It was just like, wow. So what do? You network and make it happen. I
So
never had a college sweetheart. Yeah, maybe that's it.
what?
Yeah, because I wasn't the one.
Lee over there right now, like, oh, is that right?
Is that listen here?
I wasn't the one, man. I wasn't the one. Yeah, but it wouldn't have, I couldn't have even seen the trajectory of where my life probably would have gone if I had gotten in a relationship. You know what I mean? Because I probably wouldn't have done as many things that I did, outside of Howard, because I was working in DC. DC is a very progressive city. I mean,
It is.
it's a lot. It's a lot to do.
I love DC. That's probably one of my favorite cities to perform stand-up comedy in.
Oh wow.
I headlined there 2019, it was before the pandemic, 2019, and I'm talking about killed. But they got it. Like the racial jokes, to the regular relationship jokes, like they got it. And I'm talking about, man, I love performing in DC. I can't wait to go back and perform there. How did you go about getting your start in acting? Because I'm sure there's a lot of people that want to know, like, what steps did you take back then, and then what even piqued your interest to get into acting?
Wow. So as a kid, I started as a dancer. I was modern jazz, ballet, hip hop. Well, hip hop wasn't even out then, but more modern jazz and contemporary dance. And from there, and really, really taking dance seriously, that's how musicals came about. And I'm talking like, I'm like 10, 11, 12. So I was doing like West Side Story, but I was the one that would know everybody's line like a soundtrack in my head, but, and would be clowning with, like all the ensemble players. But, the directors didn't know. I was the sponge that was in the back and just would really absorb everything. And then, of course, I know this sounds so crazy, but we had taken our little production of West Side Story up to San Francisco. One of the little girls slipped on the cobblestone, fell, busted her butt. I was like, I
can do it.
Hey. Matter of fact, I tripped her ass. No, I did. But it was an oogly oo girl, and it was our whole little rendition of West Side, and I did it and fit it, and it was a very natural progression for me, and it worked. And then I used to put on plays in my backyard, 84th place in South Central, because that's all we did was play. It was like 25 kids on my street. Like,
Wow.
it was crazy. It was crazy. Petey, Paul, Judy, LaShawn, Perry, Theron, Keisha, Tara, they all lived across the street. And then on my side, it was like all these other kids. And it was like, and we were all around the same age. So
Wow.
in the summer, we get together, write little skits and stuff, put them on in the backyard. I mean, I had like a whole little carport area that was dressed like, a little theater. Didn't know what we were doing, but we were just doing it and just being creative. And then I just started doing more and more plays, and theater just really became a thing, to a point where now I'm in high school and getting ready to graduate, and the counselors are like, so what do you want to do? And it was like, I want to do what I've been doing, and then they presented Howard and showed me all the alumni from, Felicia and Debbie and Roxy Roker and everybody that I admired. And I applied, I got in, and I majored in drama. And even after Howard, it was hard. I mean, I ain't gonna say it was like, oh, and it was a steady progression.
Right.
That's one of the reasons why I stayed in DC and did a lot of equity theater and worked at, Arena Stage, got my equity card, and was working with children and doing children's theater. And Howard, HBCUs, they blow your head up.
Right.
So blew my head up so big, I come to LA and I'm like, well, why isn't William Morris calling me?
Right.
I don't understand. Or paging me. We had pagers back then. And I couldn't get an agent, I couldn't get a manager, I couldn't get anything. So I went on tour with plays. So one of the shows I did for like, oh my God, about 3 or 4 years. You talk about saved so much money. I bought several pieces of property with it. It was beauty shop, which was
Wow.
It's in the Smithsonian now. Shelley Garrett's beauty shop. He did everything that was a pre-prototype that Tyler Perry is doing, except for the films. So he took up and coming actors, put us in this play. We would sit at the Beacon Theater, sold out for like 5 weeks in New York. Yeah.
What's his name again?
Shelley Garrett. SHO. Oh, tell the homie. Shelley Garrett.
Lee.
He did the Smithsonian now, though, for Beauty Shop, and what he did with that. That's where I met Kim Whitley.
Wow.
So the touring.
You know, that's who else they was thinking about to play my mama.
But I can see it. No, that's my girl. That's my girl.
It was between y'all two. But
really?
Yeah. But
that would have been totally different.
Totally different. I know it would have been.
Oh my God. But I've known her. She's been one of my dearest friends for over 30 years.
That's what's up. I would love to have Kim on the show. You was the top choice. I believe you was the top choice. But you need
Kim.
Yeah.
Kim is a beast though. But no, we're from that same. She does stand up, which I do sit down.
Right. Yeah. Right, because see, you have the same thing. Like I seen Regina Hall talk one time at I was at an award show, like BET Honors or some award show I was at, and she was presenting. And she was so funny. The next year they made her the host of that's how funny I remember sitting in the audience, and I'm talking about, she was firing off. And I'm like, I know she's not a stand-up comedian, but Niecy Nash is like that too.
Exactly. You know, I've known Niecy since high school. We go back some 30 years. Crazy. We started as dancers together. She went to Gardena and I went to Washington. So our history is it's impactful. But I'm a huge Regina Hall fan. Yeah.
Now I want to touch on something, because I realized this. Sometimes, I feel like people that kind of grew up in LA see, like, Hollywood seem far away to y'all. Is that
wow. That's so interesting you say that, because when I first started training, like, Kim Fields was in the class, and that's when she had all those Mrs. Butterworth commercials. I don't even know. See, look, you probably don't even know all of this.
I didn't know she had Mrs. Butterworth commercials.
Oh my God, it was huge. It was huge.
No, I didn't know about that.
Talk, and now that I look at it, it was really racist. She's like, Mrs. Butterworth was very condescending to this little Black girl. And, Kim was just a little, oh, Mrs. Butterworth, what are you made of? I made of it was basically, I made of all the things you ain't gonna never be, nigga. You know what I mean? But she didn't say that, but that was all, but we all wanted to be in the Mrs. Butterworth commercials. And Kim was, we all went to this place called Inner City Cultural Center, and she was so close, and it was like, Mama, I want to do it. But nobody knew how to do it. And we're sitting in a city that's saturated with opportunity, but it did seem like it was so far away. Wow. Unless you knew the ins and outs, and your parents knew how to, get you in, and this, that, and the other. And which, like I said, my dad was at the post office and my mom was a nurse. They just didn't know. But it was like, well, baby, you want to do this? They put me in the classes. But yeah.
Right, because anyone that don't know the geography, like, she's probably an hour, maybe 40 minutes from Hollywood, a drive, I'm saying.
If that.
If that. But she still flew all the way to DC to take...
To find myself.
To find yourself.
Myself.
But let me tell you something that's very important that I think any up and coming actor needs to realize is you got the training. See, a lot of people just be like, I want to act. I do comedy shows, and after the show, hey man, throw me in a movie, throw me in a TV show. And it's like, what training have you done? Like, that's like me coming, you a mechanic, and I'm like, hey man, give me a job doing mechanic. You'll be like, well, do you know how to work on cars? I'm like, no, nigga, but I like what you do.
Yeah, right.
You don't look at me like I'm absurd,
Right.
So I think that's still important that you found yourself, because I felt like I found myself in college too. You know, I was always the popular one. However,
no, not you.
Yeah, I've been that king out here in these streets. But but you know what I always tell people too? The least popular I've ever felt has been Hollywood. That's the least popular I've ever felt. All my life, I was always that dude. Like, that's Justin. I'm hosting the talent shows.
Wow.
You know, I don't have no problem with women, you know, girl, just because I'm funny, you know. So even though I'm not 6'2", all that, they're like, he made me laugh though, you know.
Right.
So,
wow.
But when I got to Hollywood and started facing that rejection, and you like, wait a minute, I'm not accustomed to
this. You do know I'm a number one, right?
Right. Straight up. So, but so I still think it's important, because so when I went to college, I was kind of dealing with trying to fit in with certain people, and I'm like, man, these people don't really mess with me like that, you know. And I had to like really come to like, man, who is just like, I got to get back to my roots and know who I am, and not be concerned about fitting in, but continue to stand out.
Exactly. And that was the biggest, I want to say, wake up call for me, where I really questioned, okay, am I doing the right thing? You know, here I am, I majored in drama, but you know, I can't act, you know, I couldn't get a job to do that. So after I had toured and then came back to LA, still couldn't get an agent. And I started teaching in LA. I was working with Marla Gibbs. She had a performing arts school out here. And from there, I started my own school, me and my business partner, and it turned out to be the greatest thing some 25 years later that I could have ever done. So it's about finding your way and your path, you know, because I'm not the most popular out here, you know what I mean? And there's so many of my peers that are doing like incredible shit, you know, but it's like, it's their season. Everybody has their season. So I don't compare myself, but sometimes it'd be like, damn, I would have loved to have done that. But I just know it's like, my time is coming. You know, everybody's like, so what's the best job you had? And I'm like, it's my next one.
Straight
up.
Know,
it really is. It really, really is. And creating that opportunity for myself is where I am right now, and the kind of role that I really, really want to do.
Absolutely. Well, you know, they say comparison is the thief of joy.
Ooh! Tweet that, twerk that, and work that. Comparison is the thief of joy.
Straight up.